Hey guys, Justin Worthy with the Top Calgary Real Estate Podcast. Today we are here with Zach Lyster, who is the owner of Ripple Property Management here at Remax. And he has an approach on traditional property management and has added a modern twist. So he's fixed old problems with new solutions. And I can't wait to show you what he's done to the property management business to make it a lot better for both property owners and tenants. So, Zach, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Pumped to be here.
Of course, you bet. So, Zach, can you share some unexpected challenges that you faced in property management and how you overcame them?
So, I've had my license for about 16 years. In property management, you typically see the same problems over and over and over. So I would say really over the past couple of years, we've seen one or two new problems that we haven't seen before. Some tenants are getting, really innovative in, how to get some of their credit scores increase, let's say, and things like that, ways to make themselves look good to a landlord to rent to. Some of these things with technology and how you can kind of play the system and things like that. So maybe we're seeing some new issues there, but 99% of the issues are all the same. And what we're trying to do is build processes and systems behind that can drive like quick feedback, quick results to our owners, quick communication to our tenants that make them feel heard. And so, we're really surprised on how similar the problems are. A few new things here and there, but as long as you have process driven behind, how we're attacking those problems, we're finding both our owners or tenants are really satisfied with the results.
Yeah, I love that, man. And the reason I love that so much is because, as a property owner, as an investor, I've worked with countless property management companies, and the communication is something that's really been lacking. And so just hearing that you're adapting technology and using those systems and processes, both in communication with your landlords and your tenants, I think is epic. So good on you.
And it's not everybody, we'll be honest, we're not for everyone because, we'll pick up the phone if you need to talk to someone. We are here, but if you want your problem, issue, whatever your concern is, communication, things like that, to use the platforms that we're working with, it's actually your fastest solution. But not everyone's comfortable on that because they got to go to their portal and put it in, things like that. And for me, it took me a while to oh no, this is actually the quickest way to get your problem solved. But if you need us on the phone, we will pick up the phone. But if you get stuck in someone's voicemail, there's also an issue, and that's outside of process for us. So we're really educating, onboarding owners and tenants that this is the quickest way to use our technology to get your problem solved. And a good example is, my dad's a 77-year-old, baby boomer who owns a multifamily in the Beltline. And he's traditional. He's the old ledger, everybody's, pays rent cash or check. Even if he got direct deposit, he's like, oh, I'm collecting e-transfers now. I'm like, good for you, Dad. So we took over his building and he was like, there's no way this works. There's no way what you guys have built, you guys are going to be as responsive as I was and things like that. He submitted through our portal 2 issues with the building. Both of them solved the same day. And it just takes one interaction with our systems and processes to know that it works, that they trust that it's going to get dealt with, and it's actually more efficient to go through the systems that we've put in place. So even the baby boomers are starting to kind of move things along, right? So it's fun to watch because those guys, they own a lot of property and they've self-managed for years, and it's probably the time of their life to kind of start handing off the reins to somebody else. And it's scary, and especially when they're going in through some app and they don't know if it's actually going to work. So it's there's some hand-holding at the beginning, but it's working really well.
Awesome, man. That's great. That's epic. That's a real game changer in your business. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
What are the top qualities or skills that make a property manager successful, would you say?
Yeah. I should have asked for your questions before because I'm just gonna riff and then I'll watch this on YouTube later. I'll be like, oh, I had a better answer. But if people believe, if people are being listened to or being heard or being responded to, I think most problems get waylaid. As long as someone knows, hey, you're hearing me And if it's just, if it's the tenant that has the stove that's not working, or the owner that says, hey, my owner draw this month was $7 off, whatever it is, as long as they feel heard and listened to, I think it's one of the best assets of what we're doing is we're listening to what people need, and then what we can do with that. So if it is one of those new things that I was talking about, or it's just collecting rent or whatever it is, as soon as people feel like, if people on our team have heard that problem a few times, we can implement process. So anything new that we learn about, we can implement process. But most of them come back to listening to the people you work for, and we work for our tenants and we work for our owners. And as long as they feel listened to, it really is help. No one wakes up in the morning and wants to go on Google and talk about how great their property manager was. Like, they collected rent on time. And people, when they're in contact with us, it's usually like they're not super thrilled, or something's gone wrong, and it could be with the property. It could be for a number of things. Property management, like I said, I was selling real estate, and I thought property management was the dumbest thing when I first started, because it was just like, you just have to deal with everyone's problems all the time. No one's happy with you, but it's like starting to understand. And I kind of acquired a little bit of a property management portfolio, or a rental property portfolio. And I knew what it was like to manage without process, without systems in place. And it's a nightmare. You get to 5-6 properties and you're like, you start missing things start. So without that, it can go sideways. And then what happens in that is my tenants didn't feel like they were listened to, responsive or anything like that. And little problems become big problems. So I think you asked for maybe 2 or 3. I think it all kind of comes down to communication and allowing people to feel heard, and hey, you're important. None of this works unless that tenant pays rent. Nothing happens so that tenant needs to feel like, hey, I'm being taken care of. We all know rent rates in Calgary are high. Everyone feels like, there's a squeeze on insurance and condo fees and mortgage payments, and owners are, well, I want more rent, and tenants are like, I can't afford. There's always an issue to deal with. But as long as people are feeling like heard, it really, we get out of our own way a lot faster by doing it that way. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you have some strong relationships with both your landlords and your tenants, which is amazing to hear. But how do you balance sort of that positive tenant relationship with enforcing necessary policies and making sure that they listen and obey the rules of the building, if you will?
Totally. Yeah. At the beginning of this, I was terrible at this, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm trying to make sure that I want everyone to be happy, Justin. I want to make sure, and I just want to say what you want to hear. I just want, that if we manage a commercial property and the snow didn't get cleared right when the coffee shop opened up, it's like, okay, I can guarantee that this is, okay, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it's like, no, let's just have honest conversations. Let's talk about the actual thing rather than, so what I've gotten better at, and people on our team are way better than me at, is being direct and saying exactly what's going on, as opposed to like, okay, let's just say what they want to hear, and then not being able to follow up. So it's like, hey, the earliest we're going to get there on heavy snowfalls is 8. That's the best I can do. I know you open at 7, but the best we can do there is 8. Now, can we try to edge it forward? There's residential issues of putting a snowblower in a community at an early hour. We can't do that, as opposed to like previously, I was just like, let's just say the thing that gets this problem off my plate as fast as possible. They hear what it is, but then you're not solving a problem. And I think I'm learning. I'm 43 and I feel like I'm at I feel like I'm on a tornado. Sometimes you see the same problem, but you're a little bit more elevated and you see it from a different angle and things like that. So I'm seeing the same problem, but you're kind of seeing it at a different angle. And I think us as a company, we're really helpful to each other to look at things differently, even though we're seeing the same thing over and over, and how can we improve and things like that. So I think it's about those challenging situations, bylaws, condo buildings, things like that. Just give it to them, and people can work with that as long as you're being honest with them and saying, this is an issue for this reason, this is what's going to happen from that. That's okay. But if you try to skirt it or at the beginning of my stuff, trying to people please my way through it, I just made a bigger mess. And I've learned so much from our team of like, go have the hard conversation, have that hard conversation. Then we can actually talk about what's happening, as opposed to a lot of things in property management. there's a lot of hard conversations and people just don't want to have it. And when it's your 10th one of the day, sometimes you're like, I don't want to deal with this, and it's like, no, pick up the phone and have that hard conversation. So I've learned a lot. I'm continuing to learn, and I've learned from our teammates on our team really what it's like to do that. And this is scary. You got hundreds of properties you manage. There's always going to be something someone can go on this YouTube and be like, Ripple's not doing what they're actually, because we're learning as we're going here, but we will respond to that and say, how could we have done better? Teach us, help us. What did we miss here? I think we're really good at saying like, we own our mistakes too. How can we get better? And that sort of thing. And then you're in on the sales side. I know you guys do it that way as well. You're always trying to get better, but it's hard when you're putting yourself out there and getting poked at the same time. So our team does a really good job of owning our mistakes and really trying to have those tough conversations. I can go on tangents, Justin, so if I'm all over the place, but I try to bring it back to, somewhere where we're at. So
no, I love that, man. And it's so cool to hear somebody in the business world show their vulnerability and say, listen, you know what, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but the difference between, companies that say that they don't make mistakes and companies that know that they do are the ones that do make the mistakes are willing to make the change to get better and better. And I think that is huge. And that just shows your growth set mindset. And I think that's amazing.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We welcome our failures. We can do that, turn that 1-star to a 5-star, which I've seen our team has done that. When you get that 1-star, it hurts. You're like, what? We work so hard and we get, and then you like steer into it and be like, oh, we could get better. And sometimes they turn into 5 stars, sometimes they don't, but there's like, you get a blinking light of an area that you get to fix, So yeah, we're lucky for that.
That's so cool. So cool. So what's your approach when you're dealing with a difficult tenant? How do you get them to sort of comply to some of the, things that you're asking them to do? What are the best practices for resolution that you've seen in the business?
I'm gonna be like a little repeating bird on your podcast here today, but it starts with communication. So it's like, if we're moving tenants in and not explaining exactly how a property works or exactly to how to like submit an issue on our portfolio or anything, or on our system or anything like that, we're not setting them up for success. We're not setting ourselves up for success. We're definitely not setting our owner up for success. So any of those things, I think, begins with like, here's the game we're going to play. Here's the boundaries that you're going to be in. So when, your water isn't working, we're going to ask you to go through these 3 things before you pick up the phone and start doing those things. We'll get involved. We'll support entire the way. We'll send you links and things like that. But unless somebody knows the boundaries within they're playing, we're kind of setting people up for failure. So our move-ins are quite extensive. Our team's on the ground a long time, teaching about the property, teaching about our process, teaching about our system so that people are set up for success. There's still a QR code that they can scan in and talk about the community guidelines. What's, in a townhouse complex, for example, like what is, when we first started managing like with condo boards and stuff like that, everyone was so angry and it was mostly about dog poop. And I was just like, why can't we solve it? Like, what are the rules about this? And it was like, and condo boards are really hard. We don't play in that world. And maybe one day we'll figure out how to get back into that world. But I just don't think people were set up for success of like knowing like the rules of engagement. And it was just also like spend the time with boots on the ground of talking people through it. And these people want to take care of the property. They want to take care of the owner's asset. They want to make sure that they have an opportunity to renew in the property. Not everyone wants to move. Our average stay in our units are 3.5 years. People want to stay where they are, as long as you treat them well. So any of those challenges, I think it starts with us. We take, radical responsibility of, have we done the best job of communicating to that tenant? This is the game that we're playing right now. This is how we play together, and we're here if you need us, but you also take the responsibility of like taking care of this place. If there's an issue with the water and you don't tell us, we can't do anything about it. Here's how we do that. So I think it comes down to us, how we, passing that baton on day one when they move in that couch, are they set up for success? And we spent a lot of time on our onboarding and making sure that tenants feel, hey, when I get those keys, I know what to do if something goes wrong. I know the expectations of me and the ownership on me, but I also know there's another company that's working with me here that has radical responsibility in what they're doing as well. So yeah.
That is awesome, man. And it's just like expectation setting, right? Like how are people supposed to know what you expect if you haven't told them?
Totally. Yeah.
So, I think it's so basic, but so rare for you to find that in business, right? Where people actually take the time to slow down from their day to day and be able to say, listen, this is what we expect. So I think that's massive. Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I course. And
Yes,
I know
I'll come on this anytime. I just feel better about myself after like talking to you. So I'll do this any day with you, Justin. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you're welcome anytime.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So I know at Ripple Property Management, you guys have really taken the time to utilize technology to change your approach in property management. What tools or systems in particular do you find most useful for your day-to-day operations?
So we're building our own while using other platforms to learn from. So we're doing kind of things in tandem. And the platforms I can go through are different platforms. I can go through the different ways that we expedite. We have systems, automations, all those things. I think I'll just speak from like what I'm learning. Like, we've got all these young bucks on our team that understand technology better than me. And it's like, okay, well, what if I can't code? What if I can't like build something on a platform? It's like, you can't build anything until you understand the problem 100%. And I call it just getting in the muck. And we need to get into the muck. So it's just like, I'm just going to throw an example out there. Like property management, keys are an issue. Okay. If you're doing the volume that we're doing per month, we're taking on between 40 and 50 units a month right now. So that's 40 to 50 sets of keys that you have to know where they are. So it's like, now we've got a physical thing coming in. Our owners are saying, this is the biggest investment of my life. Here's the keys to it. And we're at Remax, at the front. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for giving. Now we've gotten those keys. This is now our responsibility. What the heck happens after that? So it's a lot of manual things. There's key cutting, there's key validation, there's new unit inspection. Now we need to understand what's on the property. Now, hey, owner, you said there was this place was in perfect shape. We've done our new unit. You need a ton of work on that. Now, here's all our repairs and maintenance suggestions. Here's all the quotes that we've done for you. Are you ready to move forward with that? You need to be aware of all those types of things. Now we have people coming in and out of the property. Now the property's ready to go. Now let's get some tenants through there. Now you got to do showings. Now we're getting people through. Now we're validating them. All of that doesn't work if you don't understand how to figure out onboarding of keys. So it's like this constant situation with property management is like taking physical problems and implementing into, a technology-based solution, but being able to perform it. And unless you know everything along the way, because some of these things, like from our sales cycles, so I do a lot of the new owner sales calls. So when they come in, my job isn't done until the tenant has moved in and paid their security deposit. So I need to be aware of everything, because if something goes wrong, if the property is priced differently than we thought it would be, if there's a change in the market, if we need to get repairs and maintenance, they're not calling our service team. They're calling the person that sold the property management dream at the beginning and saying, hey, Zach, this isn't going the way that we thought, or this is going great, whatever it is. But unless I know everything that's going along the way, I'm setting myself up for failure. That doesn't mean I have to do it all, but I have to know the systems and processes that are in place, and then every one of our team members. So we have tons of different kind of automations that we're working with. We're building our own. We're using low code, no code. We're doing, existing platforms that, we're just learning from and things like that. But unless you have a defined problem and understand every step of the way with a really clear, like one and done, like this is when this is done, that tenant has moved in and they're happy after their first week, we can kind of breathe. But unless you know that, technology is not going to help you, because all it is, it's going to send you the auto email that, hey, dummy, you haven't done this. And it's like, but I don't know how to do that using, any systems and process. So we call it ripple thinking. maybe Justin, you're on a ride here with me. So like once a month, our team gets together. Instead of just going for beers and like going to do something like that, we were like, okay, why don't we go learn a new skill? So why don't we go learn so ripple thinking is like, okay, here's a problem. How would you actually apply a different way of thinking? So instead of going for beers, we approach a small business in town and we go do something with them and learn about it. So instead of going bowling, we got a bowling instructor to teach us how to bowl. So instead of going into that, so it's like, if we're going to learn a skill, let's go learn that. Then we did, there's a really knifeware in Inglewood. So instead of going to this was like, we wanted to learn how to I've been in the kitchen for my entire life and I really still don't know how to cut an onion. So we took a cut like a chef course. So it was like, this is how you properly cut a vegetable. And not only that, this is how, I've been cutting a pepper wrong my entire life. I had no clue. But you get to learn from an expert. And then while we're sitting there learning how to cut, we're like, how does a chef approach a problem in a kitchen? Like when you get slammed, how are you prepared? Oh, process. Oh, systems. Oh, you have a reliable way to approach these things. And then we can watch how they attack a problem in a slammed restaurant. And then we kind of after those things. So we learned how to cut. Everybody got a nice knife, which was way more expensive than I thought it would be for Japanese knives. But then they get to go home and they take those skills to their family and cut vegetables on a Friday night going hey, my company taught me how to cut this. And oh, this is the way we're approaching problems and things like that. So we've done that. We went glass walking one time where we, walked through glass, which was terrifying. We just did a VR, we're doing all these different things, but it's yes, let's go do an activity, but also let's learn about what's happening there. And then can we pull strings of that and attach it to the problems that we see? So we learned so much from that chef that day. We now how to cut vegetables correctly, or kind of. And our team has a story to bond around and things like that. So it's how do you get activated through these different things? It's great to go for beers. It's great to go have those moments, but it's if we're going to go do this, why don't we go learn something while we're doing it and being able to bring that back? And we can talk to our owners about that. Some of them like that story. Hey, yes, you're a Toronto buyer and you're never coming to Calgary and we'll manage it. But this is who we are. This is my Alexis's partner is Maggie Hall. She's a great artist. This is the type of art that we have in our office here. So we're looking at how do we, white walls shouldn't be white walls. So how can we, bring some flavor to it? I am really on a tangent now, Justin, but it's about approaching problems differently, so how can we look and learn from other people that are doing things differently in a completely different industry? And I want to learn. I've been on your call. I've been on your sales call. I love how your team interacts with each other. I love how open it is. There's a dialogue. It's how do we learn from each other? You guys are bringing in experts in certain areas and asking some really hard questions. Hey, what about this? What about this? Hey, I don't believe you here. This is what I'm seeing in the market. I really like how you guys are doing that. And you're different because of that. And your clients will feel that. Wow. Way too much of a time.
Oh, that was amazing, dude. My mind, I just learned probably 5 things in that thing. That was awesome. I love that. That's so cool. What advice would you give to property owners looking to maximize the value of their rental properties? So sometimes if people come to us and say, hey, I want to sell my house and I want to sell it for the most possible money, I tell them, okay, usually people spend money in the places that people will spend the most time. So kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms. And so for instance, how does that kind of translate in property management if people want the most rent?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. We've got people beside me. I'm like, oh, this is a good question. Yeah. So, Austin leads our repairs and maintenance, and he'd probably have better opinions. I'll take a crack at it, but it's the little things. If I was to say, what can somebody put into the property that could have the biggest bang for their buck? And this is just maybe window coverings. Huh? Okay, so most people, when they buy a property, they don't want to go ahead and put in window coverings. And they're just it's a big deal. It's not a big deal, just have them move in. And well, it's not my job. Whoa. We're giving an asset to a human being that is going to be in a community that deserves to get changed in their bedroom with not having that broadcasted to the whole community, things like that. So it's like, okay, now do they want to take a brand new build in mahogany and then spend another X amount of dollars on window coverings? No, but it's like, but you're going to attract a certain tenant that's going to come into this property and they're going to say, hey, we don't have to put up things into the drywall and the window casings and put a hole in. And then that one's and now we're fixing that down the road and things like that. So it's like, how do you approach that? How do you treat people the way that you want to be treated? When people walk into these properties, we have owners that are like, I don't want to put a dime into this property. And we're like, then we're not the property management company for you. And that can be a line. That's a line like, oh, whatever. It's like, no, we're providing a service and we need to deal with that tenant. And we need to look them in the eye and make sure that this property, when we hand it over to you, it is in this condition. When we get it back in a year, 2 years, 3 years, we expect it in this condition. If we're not, we're going to hold you accountable for that. But if we're handing over properties that are not in great shape, that are kind of, do you want to live here? Do you want to, no, take care of these places. And it's little things like window coverings that tells a story to the tenant saying like, hey, these people care about this property and I need to take care of it. And then you've got a tenant that's living in the property, taking care of it, all those types of things. And it starts with little things like window coverings. It starts with little things like, hey, I know you don't want to shampoo the rugs before, but if we give it to them with a perfectly shampooed rug, when we get it back from them in a year, 2, 3 years, we're going to expect it back there. And then we can hold them accountable. So it's those little things that we can hold people accountable, not to set them up for failure or any issues like that, but it's just like, people deserve a really nice place to live in and they're spending a lot of money on rent. Let's give it to them in a really great condition. And that involves things like, so just in that answer, we don't take a unit without window coverings because it just causes so many, and no one thinks about that. And it's like, we're just not going to play that game of like cutting, certain areas to save a few bucks and not allow a tenant to have a good experience. So.
Yeah, no, that's huge. It's so small, but so compelling. Yeah. So no, that's amazing. What are the biggest mistakes you see new property managers make, and how can they be avoided?
I think there is from my perspective, it's going back to that, not wanting to have those hard conversations, avoiding situations, not talking the truth, and just kicking the can down the road and hopefully things go away or get better. I live in a condo downtown and I've had a roof leak in my condo for coming up on 4.5 years, and no one wants to really talk to me about it. I rent. I don't own my own property. I rent it and I have to go through the owner and things like that. And I'm appalled that it can be 4 years and not have a really definitive solution. And it's not about like engineering reports and all these things. It's that, let's just talk about what's happening here. Is we don't know. We don't have a solution. But when my emails go unread, I don't hear back from people, I get upset. I'm like, why doesn't one of, and I've got buckets around my place collecting water. This is an experience I don't love. And, it's not having those seriously difficult conversations, and they don't have to be hard. It's just more about avoidant. And I think what we see in the industry, so our number of staff per unit is incredibly low, compared to other property management companies. And I think other PM companies put people at problems, and I think we put process at problems. So any issues, unless it's solved by a process, we're not going to, click that off until we have that process in place. We love our team. Our team takes on a ton of issues, but we're backed by process and not by people. And I think that's nice. We're still here to answer the phone. We can deal with those issues. But a lot of companies I see is just hire another person. And you see it in the condo industry a lot more. People have a great experience with a PM company. And in our industry, there's a lot of turnover on the lead property managers because, it's a tough job. You got to deal with a lot of problems. So every 6-7 months, maybe you have turnover on who's handling your building. And all of a sudden we're like, we have the best property management company. They're amazing. No, you had a great person that was running your building and answering your questions the way you liked it. As soon as you have somebody else that's maybe a bit more overwhelmed, a bit more new to the industry, things like that, and you're like, I hate this PM company. They can't answer us anything. Well, it's the same company, but it was different people. And I think what we're experiencing in this industry is not a lot of PM companies that are really, really taking process seriously and how to translate that, because it's not rocket science. We're not doing crazy things. And I think that's, again, back to the condo industry, people like, why is this so hard? Why does everyone, like, we're just dealing with like a 16 plex, and it's not that it's not hard. I just think that it's sitting in somebody's inbox, as opposed to like, how does this like reciprocity happen of like information coming in, that company learning it and getting it out faster and faster and faster. And we talk about that flywheel. Our company is really moving quicker with learning from that flywheel, as opposed to just traditionally answering emails and hoping that people like our experience. So we're really backed by process, and I think our industry typically is backed by people. Yeah. We love people. We still love people, does it? But it's like, people enjoy their jobs more when they can rely on a process that supports, the day in, day out, because it's a lot of, we say there's a lot of moving parts in property management, and there is, so it's we all got tough jobs, but this one, you deal with people let us into their homes. We can open their fridge with 24 hours notice. That's a really intimate space to be in. People let us into their homes, and we don't take that for granted. Owners let us into their bank accounts. We deposit into their bank accounts in a monthly. That's a really intimate space. And I never thought about that of property management. This is a really intimate space. People let us into their homes. We don't take that lightly. So how do we show up best, and how do we make sure you have a great experience on everybody's front, owner, like vendors too? Make sure vendors are having a good experience working with us as well. So process, Justin.
Cool. Well, no, that was amazing, Zach. You gave us so much amazing content to think about, both in business and in life, actually. And I think this interview is actually a lot more actually compelling and informative than I even expected it to be. So
property management is fun. It's so fun, Justin.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Zach, for taking the time to be on our podcast. And we really appreciate your time. For people that want to get a hold of you, what are the best ways for them to reach out?
Through our website, anything, we can go through Remax website, but ripplepropertymanagement.com is the easiest. And you can just input your information onto our platform through that. If you're a tenant, we'll send you links on all the properties that we have available for you to move into. If you're an owner looking for property management services, that comes directly to me, and I'll be in contact with you right away. And we're excited to grow. We just opened up in Edmonton, so we've got units up there now, and we're growing. So we're pretty pumped about that, but we don't do it without amazing realtors, teams that like you, that we work really closely with, and we just really value that relationship and love what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. Really appreciate you, man. And we look forward to working with you in the future as well. Like, follow, and subscribe. Whether you're a homeowner, a first-time buyer, a seller, an investor, or a home builder, we've got tips, insights, and strategies that you need to succeed. Like this video, follow us for updates, and hit that subscribe button with a notification bell so you never miss our latest content. It's free, and it helps us bring you even more valuable knowledge. Your next big real estate move starts right here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.